What is going on, everybody, and welcome back to another installment into the extraordinary life of Emon. I am your host, and today I got another story for you guys. This one actually took place when I was working in the jail. It's a bit of a doozy, so we're not going to mess around. We're going to jump right into it. But before we do, please do me that favor, like this video, subscribe to the channel, and leave me a wonderful comment down below. That all being said, let's go ahead and get into it. Okay, so a little bit of backstory is required for this one. The agency that I worked for during this time was a little bit different, and it was a bit of a hybrid. I worked the courthouse, I worked the jail, and I actually worked the road all in the same time. So basically it made it so all the law enforcement officers was always checking all the boxes. We were able to maintain all of our skills working throughout different areas in different capacities. So that being said, this story actually starts out in a roll call. I was actually in the process of switching off from working the road to switching to jail. Again, a little bit of explanation. Every time units would switch, there would technically be like a mini roll call that took place to kind of help you get acclimated to what exactly is going on. So when going from the road to the jail, I basically was given all the information that I needed. I knew what was going on in the facility. I knew what intake units was doing. I knew what classification was doing, transports was doing. I knew everything about what was going on because I was brought up to speed during said roll call. So on this day, I was actually assigned to work female intake. No big deal. I've worked male intake, female units, male units, female max, male max. I've worked in every capacity, so it's no big deal. When it comes to criminals, it don't matter what their gender is. I'm going to treat them all the same. I'm going to treat everybody with dignity and respect. Nevertheless, whenever a male is assigned to work in the female intake unit, a female is always assigned there with you. There are gender differences, so they do want to maintain, that comfort. Plus, it also eliminates a lot of the allegations that can be had. So in female intake, it's either going to be a male unit and a female unit, or a female unit and an additional female unit. So on this particular evening, I was big hype. I actually knew who I was working with. We actually went through training together and we were good friends. When it came to the actual pass on information, it was all the usual stuff. We had new inmates coming in. We had new prisoners being released. We had new classification inmates that needed to be processed. It was all good, the usual stuff. However, there was something in that pass on that they tried to smooth over. So there was an EDP lady. When I say EDP, emotionally disturbed person, she was inside the jail. She needed to be classified. However, she had refused to bathe. In fact, she was in her cell. She was butt naked and she was covered in all kinds of body fluids. Anything you can think of, she was covered in it, but she was in her cell. So the issue with that is they can't classify her unless she's clean. So it's up to us somewhere throughout the night to actually get her out of her cell and into a shower. At the post, things are running normal. We get things moving. We process the inmates. We get everything taken care of that we needed to. So initially, I actually tried to make contact. I walked up to her cell. I said, "Hello, how are you? Would you like to take a shower?" She said nothing at all. She looked at me. She started throwing her body fluids towards the door. She started yelling, and I immediately said, "No, negative. We'll deal with this another time," and walked away. Y'all, it was bad. The smell emanated from her cell. It like punched you in the face. I endured a little bit, but once she started throwing them fluids, I had to go. So I went back to the post and I told her we're gonna wait probably an hour, let her calm down, and we'll try again. So eventually the time did come where we actually did have to let her out. We have to open her cell. She has to walk down a long corridor to get into the specialized shower cell. When it came to the specialized cell, it's just called the specialized cell because it has a shower built into it. We can literally close her in, lock it. She's still secure. We control the water, whether the water is on or not, so she can't like drown herself or nothing like that. At this point, I donned my PPE, which is basically some goggles and some gloves. That was all that they supplied. When it comes to inside of the jail, all we have on our utility belt is a pair of handcuffs, some OC, a radio, and a flashlight. At that time, I didn't have a taser or anything like that, so whatever happened was gonna happen. I had a feeling feeling that something would happen. So I actually got with my partner on post and said, hey, look, let's stop all movement within the facility. Let's get a couple of units at least to be on alert so that they could respond in case this breaks bad, basically. At the end of the corridor is a bunch of lock switches for each row of cells that we had in the tier. I stood there and my partner actually stood slightly in front of me. Because she's a female, per our policy at that time, she actually had to make first contact if any contact was to be made. So I made sure she was ready and I hit the switch. As soon as that lock popped and she recognized that the door was now open to that cell, I heard a loud wail and then she came running out of that cell. She kicked the door open, boom, and then she just jumped out. It was like she was a wild animal. It literally looked like something off of Animal Planet. Keep in mind, she's on a long corridor, so she has a while before she can get to us. However, she turned very slowly and looked at me. Like, I looked her dead in the face. My partner initially did give commands. She was yelling at her to stop, to get on the ground, to go back in her cell. Nothing. This lady didn't even look like she was hearing us. So she continued to walk. Keep in mind, like we said, she is covered in whatever came out of her body. So I tell my partner, hey, keep giving commands. So as I'm coaching her, I'm coaching my teammate, hey, telling her what to say. I could tell she's getting nervous. I could hear it in her voice when she's giving the commands. Her voice is cracking and it's not looking good. So I go ahead and get on the radio. Doo-doo. Give me some help. Send some additional female units. We're going to have a problem with this lady. She's not complying. So they already are en route and on their way to us. But this lady at this point is coming. She's going to get here before additional units arrive. So we're going to have to make contact with her eventually. So I basically continue to coach my female coworker. I'm telling her what to do, what to say, and I can tell this isn't going to work. But then all of a sudden, the lady stopped. She just randomly stopped. I'm like, what's going on? Why did she stop? She turned around, ran back to her cell. She splashed herself with some toilet water. I don't know what else was in the water. And then she started running even faster at us. She continued to run, continue to run, continue to run. And I'm telling my coworker, all right, get back because you're not moving fast enough. You're not doing anything. And she was frozen, y'all. She was literally planted, just standing there. She wasn't doing anything. So I got her out of the way. I did what I could. When this lady got in range, I whipped out the OC, baby, and I started hitting her with it. I'm talking wop, 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 wop. Like, I'm literally emptying the can on this lady. Nothing. She's not responding. It's not having any kind of effect. I was getting scared because I'm like, oh my God, I have to worry about this lady. I'm gonna have to fight this lady eventually because she's coming at me, basically, right? And she's starting to move fast. She slowed down for a second. She did slow down. So I knew something was having an effect. So I tell my coworker, I'm yelling at her, hey, get on the radio, tell him to hurry up. And then I think to myself, she's got spray too. Help me out here. So she starts spraying her too. So imagine us, we're side by side. We look like Ghostbusters. We just sitting there crossing the stream, spraying this lady. And I'm hitting her with the X. I'm hitting her, I'm hitting the circle. I'm just trying to get this lady to respond in any way possible. So eventually, guess what? She slows down to a stop and she starts like wiping her eyes and wiping her hands. And she's like, oh my God, what is going on? So I tell her, I yell at her, get down, get to the ground. And she does. She complies. She's wiping her eyes. She gets down to the ground and she's like, please help me and all this other stuff because it started burning. It started to take effect now. I was like, yes, I don't have to touch her. The females are present at this point. They're going to take over. So as soon as the females initially grabbed her, she resisted. She literally assaulted 3 units. So I went to spray her again, but I was empty. Nothing came out. It was... I only had one avenue to go at that point. I had the can in my hand. I tossed that can right at her. It flung and hit her right in the forehead. It was outstanding. It was the greatest throw I've ever thrown. It stunned her. That gave opportunity for the females to regroup, grab her, slam her to the ground. Did I mention she was still covered in everything? It was gross. The smell. That was the worst thing I've ever smelled. It was crazy. Eventually, we did get her secured in the shower. She did eventually calm down, and she was actually secured. We did get her decontaminated, so her cell was cleaned, everything was taken care of, and she was fine. My female coworker, she came up to me, she gave me a hug, she said, thank you so much. I was so scared. About 3 weeks later, she actually did resign, so it clearly wasn't for her. So funny enough, after that, because I actually hit the OC spray, there's a use of force investigation. investigation. So the acting sergeant actually came to interview her in reference to the OC spray deployment. And you know what she said? She said it. The only reason she stopped was because she heard my commands and that she got hit in the face with the can, and she knew at that point she was done for. So she just stopped and gave up right then and there. In a state of being manic, she was able to recognize that I was not playing with her and I wanted her to do something, and she was able to regain herself and actually comply. The investigation was clear, no problems or anything like that. I was right in doing what I did. I didn't get any like awards or anything for it, but I did get a little bit of kudos for reacting when the female unit didn't react. And I can honestly say we take those over here. But that's it. That was basically the story. That's how it all played out. But what would you guys do? Let me hear it down below in the comments section. If you did enjoy this video, do me the favor, like this video, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. This has been another installment into the extraordinary life of Emon. I've been your host, and I'll definitely see you on the next one.